This is the Samsung Z Flip 5, or Z Flip if you prefer, and I've been using this phone for a couple of months now. It's a smartphone that I really want to love. There's considerable engineering brilliance in this folding mechanism, but there is also the inevitable compromises that come with this form factor. Now, lots of my esteemed fellow YouTubers have already done comprehensive reviews of this phone, and they've demonstrated its features and its performance. What I want to do in this video of my first impressions is focus more on my personal experience. I'm going from a standard slab phone, an iPhone, to a folding phone. So I just want to give you my perspective on that and a bit of the history and why I chose this device. And I also want to talk about the form factor and whether or not the benefits outweigh those compromises. I'm a bit of a tech lover, and prior to using iPhone, I used Android and Windows Phone, which I have to say was my personal favourite. And I've used handsets from all of the major brands. I kind of ended up on iPhone for the past few years, mainly due to feeling a bit underwhelmed with the innovation. For a long time, the smartphones from all the main players have had the same form factor. So handsets like the Flip are a refreshing challenge to the status quo. And it's a really nice looking thing. Not that you can properly see it because I've got this silicone case on it, and I'm not going to be taking it off in this video because it's actually stuck to the phone. Now there is a reason for that, and it's one of those compromises that you have to accept with this form factor. Before we get into the specifics though, I think we should talk about why Samsung is making a flip phone. And to do that, we kind of need to wind the clock back a bit. Now, I got my first mobile phone in 1996, and it was so big that I'm pretty sure it had a small moon in gravitational orbit. Battery life was woeful, and as far as functionality goes, well, it could make phone calls. That was assuming if you could find any signal. But phones developed rapidly, and within just a few years, I was sporting a Motorola StarTAC flip phone. And compared to that brick that I'd had at first, this small, pocketable flip phone was a pretty exciting revelation. So perhaps this purchase for me was a little bit nostalgia-driven, and maybe that describes part of the target audience for this phone. Because on the surface, a flip phone does seem like a space-saving design. After all, the phone folds up smaller. Well, yes, it does, but also no, because your average modern slab phone is small enough to fit comfortably in the pocket of your jeans or in your purse or your handbag. It's such a ubiquitous design that we've become used to making it part of our everyday carry. Now, the Flip does indeed fold to half its height, but since both parts are as thick as a conventional smartphone, it also doubles in thickness when it's folded. Still fits in the pocket of my jeans, still fits in a purse or a handbag, but some people won't like that feeling of extra bulk that comes from the thickness. So you've got to be sure that you want this folding design, because in order to get it, you do have to accept these compromises. Now, it is also true that Samsung has taken advantage of this form factor with some neat additional features, and we'll talk about those in a moment. First, let's come back to this case. Now, I'm used to getting a new phone, slapping it straight in a case and putting a screen protector on it, which is easy to do with your run-of-the-mill slab phone, but it's not so straightforward on a phone that has a hinge. Cases for the Z Flip 5 typically come in two separate sections, and that compromises the fit. A smartphone case usually has a snug fit on all four corners, but each part of the Flip case only has two corners available to it, and that means it's harder to get that snug fit. And that's especially true of this top section, because it has a cutout here for the fingerprint sensor, and then the back is completely open for that second display. And as a result, the cases can easily detach or slide around unless they have adhesive. This is an official Samsung case, and once you stick it on, it does stay in place as it should. You can remove it easily enough, but each time, of course, you're weakening that adhesive, so it's best to keep it in place. I was trying to be incredibly careful with this new phone, but somehow in the process of removing it from one case and then putting this Samsung case on, whilst I was sat at a table with a protective cloth down, I still managed to put a light scratch on the back of the phone. I do miss the days when we just used removable plastic back cases on our phones. When it comes to screen protectors, I wanted to have a screen protector on the external display because I believe this is the one that's most likely to get scratched. But this actually proved quite challenging because you've got to make sure that the screen protector you choose won't be in contact with the edge of the case that you're using. If it does, what I found was that the screen protector started lifting and you get air bubbles. And I went through a few different brands before finding this Spigen protector, which works well with the Samsung case. And I'll put some links to that in the description. I haven't bothered with a screen protector for the main display. Obviously, because it's a folding display, you won't be able to get a single piece of glass for it. So that means if you want a glass protector, you're going to need to have two separate pieces. And I think that would feel a bit horrible moving your finger over that. The alternative is that you get a plastic screen protector, but then you've got to try and get it to stick down on the hinge without getting air bubbles and everything else. I'm not convinced that I would get a great result with that. But if any of you guys have experience in doing this, please share that in the comments section. And this is probably a good time to talk about the screen. Now, you might think that having a folding display means that you won't get the best in color reproduction or brightness or resolution. And you'd be wrong. This is a typically brilliant Samsung AMOLED 2X display. It offers 1600 nits peak brightness, it's got lovely vibrant colours and a fast 120Hz refresh rate, so no complaints on that front. But there are compromises. First, the finish on the top of the display, which I assume is some sort of plastic, is very smooth, but is not quite as smooth as a conventional glass top display. And you can feel the difference even though it is very slight. And you can also see the difference in the way that light reflects off the screen. What about the area of the display by the hinge? Do you notice it? Well, not really if you're holding the phone and viewing it within a normal range of angles. If I pop it down on the table at a more acute angle here, I can clearly see the hinge area of the display, but I don't personally think this is much of a compromise to have that folding display. However, as well as seeing it, you can also feel it. If you're scrolling content, with dragging your thumb down the screen, you can feel a very clear indentation in the middle there where the hinge is. I'm okay with it, but some people won't get used to that and won't like it. To help protect the display, there's a raised lip that runs all the way around the edge of the phone. I think this is actually a sensible design feature, but it does have the effect of increasing the size of the bezels. Bezels are a personal preference thing. I don't mind it at all. Some people won't like it. With this generation of the Flip, Samsung has put a much bigger display on the outside of the phone. They call this the cover screen, and it can be pretty useful. You can see notifications, calls, you can even respond to text messages using the cover screen. In fact, there are a selection of apps which will run on the cover screen, or if you prefer, you can enable developer options in Android and put pretty much any app on there. Now, this is a great feature, but if you've got the phone in your hand anyway, why wouldn't you just open it and use the bigger display? And that has been made very easy to do. For example, if you're using WhatsApp on the cover screen, when you open the Flip, WhatsApp will also be on the main screen. So it's pretty seamless going from one to the other, and I do like that. Where the cover screen really becomes useful though is for the cameras. Vloggers who like to record themselves using their phone are going to absolutely love this. Because with a conventional smartphone, if you want to see yourself as you're recording, you have to use the selfie camera. Now, you might have gone out and bought a premium smartphone with a phenomenal main camera, but instead you're not using that, you're relegated to the worst camera on the device. But the Flip 5 doesn't have that problem because you can use the main cameras and then see a preview of yourself on the cover screen. And what's more, you can use the form factor to your advantage here. Set the Flip down on a surface and open it halfway, and it is its own tripod, which is great for video, it's great for pictures with friends. And I'd say that this is a key benefit to this flip phone form factor, and Samsung have taken full advantage of it. I'm not going to go into the full specs of the cameras here. As I said, plenty of others have done in-depth reviews. But what I will say is that I'm impressed with the quality of photos and video. I think they're very good. And I'm going to be using this phone as a B camera for my motorcycling channel. It's really perfect for that purpose, and it's very easy to set up in pretty much any situation. Samsung does also make use of the half-open posture to split the main display in some apps. For example, if you're watching media, you can set it on the table like this, half open, and you'll see the video in the top portion of the display, and then you'll get playback controls on the bottom. It's really nicely done, and it makes a lot of sense. I like to watch YouTube whilst I have my breakfast, and that's really easy on the Flip 5. There's no need to balance your phone against the marmalade jar. Now sure, it's not the biggest picture once the video is relegated to half the display, but when you're sat right in front of it, it doesn't really matter. This is in every way a premium flagship phone with a price to match, but it delivers on the expectation, providing that you feel the benefits of the folding design outweigh the compromises. I've been watching folding phones with interest over the past few years, waiting for the designs to mature a little bit before I jump in with my own money. So I can't speak to the performance of earlier generations, but what I can say is that this Z Flip 5 is 100% ready for market. I don't feel like an early adopter or a beta tester, so Samsung has done a great job there. Has Samsung done enough to make me switch from the iPhone? Well, that's probably a topic for another video. Now, in fairness, I will say that I've long had a secondary phone for when I want to get away from work calls but still stay in touch with the family. And that's how I'm using the Flip. I really like it, and I will share some more thoughts on my journey when I've spent a bit more time with it. In the meantime though, please let me know what you think about this design. Have you got any experience with folding phones yet? And since I know a lot of the viewers of the channel are Apple users, what about you guys? Would you like to see a folding iPhone? Would you buy one if Apple made it? As always, thanks for spending a bit of time with me today and for supporting the channel. I'll see you again soon for some more geekery.